Book World, The Great Escape. I'm author CJ Peterson. My co-host over here is author Michael Scott Clifton. Today we have a very special guest with us, author Dana Wayne. Welcome, Dana.
Thank you.
Love is in the air with Valentine's Day. Yay! Oh, you got it to work today. Yay!
That's great. Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We're talking romance genre. So welcome, Dana.
Thank you.
So we're going to start off first of all with what makes your genre different than other genres, romance books in your genre. Let's start there.
Well, because romance is universal.
Mm-hmm.
And romance, the whole romance genre to me is kind of like, all writing, if fiction, is some kind of fantasy. But in romance, it's an emotional fantasy trip. Uh, the world is so chaotic. There's so much turmoil. There's so much nonsense that people just sometimes need a little escape. And that's what I think romance is, because it's, that regardless of what happens, whatever the circumstances are, that there's going to be a happily ever after, that HEA, that you get that emotional payback, if you will, for reading the book. And there are going to be trials, there'll be tribulations, just like life. But in the end, it's all happy. And that's what I like. I like happy. What can I say?
Must have a happy ending, right?
Must have a happy. See, that's the difference between a romance and a love story.
Mm-hmm.
A romance will always have a definitive happily ever after. A love story will not.
Oh.
Gone with the Wind, epic love story, not a romance. Because why? She's on this door watching him walk away and says, I'll think about that tomorrow. You don't know, you assume, you hope, but you don't have a definitive happy ending. Romance or a love story.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Patty said, love me some Dana Wayne.
Your partner in crime, right?
My partner in crime. I tell you what, she's helped me a lot. She's the one who told me that I needed to revamp my current work in progress and change the order. And we had to have a couple of brainstorming sessions before I got that down, but I think I did it now.
So romance has a happy ending, love story, not necessarily.
Right. It could be, you think it's going to be, but there's no definitive walk off into the sunset hand in hand or walking down the aisle or whatever. There's no definitive happy ending in a love story.
Nicholas Sparks would definitely not be a romance.
No, he's a love story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of romance, you just had one come out recently.
I did. Firestorm was, I don't know how writers get their inspiration, but 9 times out of 10, mine comes to me when I'm asleep. Something gets triggered and my brain goes, ooh, that would make a good story. And so I thought about something that happened to me as a child, where my dad drove a truck, and he was coming from West Texas, and he brought this jar with a tarantula in it.
Oh no!
Because that would have been so cool, So he has this tarantula on a table, and my brother comes through, knocks it off, the lid comes off, the spider jumps. I thought he was jumping on me. He wasn't, but he was, and I thought he was this big.
Did that really happen? Like for real, in real life, that really happened?
That really happened to me.
Oh, no.
So anyway, for whatever reason, my crazy brain picked that up one night, and I had this dream, and it was this woman, and she was grown, and she was somewhere, I don't know where now, but it woke me up in the middle of the night going, so, but then I thought, you know what? I could use that. How could I use that? And my stories come to me character first. It's always character first. I dream them, I see somebody walking by, I get an idea, but it's always character first because my stuff is very character driven. Anyway, so I thought, okay, how can I use that?
Excuse me, that would have been my worst nightmare, but okay, go ahead.
So I was like, how can I use that? So again, this is one of those wee hours of the morning. I get up and I write that scene, and then I just put it over here in my to be written file. And then after I finished my other book, the one before that, Texas Winds, I said, okay, it's time to do my new one. What's it going to be? And so I thought, "Yeah, I've got to use that spider thing. That is, that's too good not to use." So I just picked that one up and I made that the opening to my book. It's not the opening, but it's in that scene, and it just goes from there. Jenna McCrae is a wealthy philanthropist who runs a small charitable organization. Thomas Donovan is the fire marshal, and he sees her picture in the paper at some charity event from like a month ago, and something about her just strikes him, and he's just drawn to her. He's never met her, wouldn't know her, didn't know who she was other than seeing her picture. And so he falls in love with the picture. And then he meets her in a restaurant when she's breaking up with this guy, and he throws a fake spider her way. And
So
wait a minute, what? You threw the spider at her?
You'd have to know Oscar. He's a jerk.
is it a tarantula?
It was a fake spider, but it was just a big fake spider. And he knew that she was breaking up with him, and he didn't like to be told no. And so he says, "Well, here's a gift for you to remember me by." And he pitches this fake spider that's got, the legs move, and she freaks, and because of something that happened to her as a child, which is kind of like what happened to me, and that's how I got the idea.
So when you say that your stories are character driven,
Mm-hmm.
does that mean that the story is derived from your characters? If you see the nuance there?
Yes, because the romance is all about conflict. It's internal conflict, it's external conflict, it's tension and tenderness, and it's meshing those things. Well, each of us, we all have our own set of triggers, if you will, and the things that we want and the things that we look for and the things that we need. Well, my characters are the same way.
In the corner, but go ahead.
You still think about the spider?
Yeah. I hope somebody rescued her because I'm having.
Oh yeah, Donovan rescued her.
Okay, good, because I'm not myself.
Oh yeah, Donovan rescued her. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, but the characters tell me what I need to do. That sounds crazy to a non-writer, but that's what happens.
Oh, they do.
Is that I'm writing a scene and something feels off about it, and then I step back and I try to look at it from their point of view. Oh, I see what it is. That they wouldn't do it that way, or they wouldn't say that. And so, yeah, the characters, if you listen to your characters, they will tell you what the story needs. And it doesn't matter whether you're character driven or plot driven, your characters will still tell you what they need to happen in order for them to achieve whatever their goal is.
So
does that make sense?
So do you think that lends itself more to romance novels and writers than it would in other genres?
I've read other genres, and I will read anything that catches my eye. But I think that character guidance is present in any genre, because regardless of whether your story is driven by the plot or driven by the character still has input on what happens, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of think authors kind of slightly need to be a little bit schizophrenic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we kind of have to be in the mind of each one of the characters.
That's right.
That's kind of what I feel.
One of the things that I read something recently, and I wish I'd written it down because the information was just real profound, but it basically said that romance is kind of a misunderstood genre, that it is more technically challenging than some other genres because you have to balance or juggle so many different things. If you're doing romantic suspense, you've got a romance plot, you've got a suspense plot. Okay, you've got two people. So this person has their own set of internal and external conflicts. This person has theirs. How do you juggle all of these pieces and make them into a cohesive story? But it was talking about how the romance writer had to be almost an emotion. They had to be emotionally intelligent enough to know that you have to do this, or why do people do that? You know, he wants to be loved, but he doesn't. But he does things to sabotage it. Why does he do that? So basically, you're like psychoanalyzing your characters as you go. And I never thought about it that way, but I guess it's, you know, it makes a valid point.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you do that with a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Patty
Well-
said villains are so diabolical. Diabolical. Where does that come from?
Well, it's just my brain, you know.
You have a
It's like-
diabolical brain.
It's that diabolical brain, you know. I like in the detail. Jack Walls is just a nasty person, and when there was a couple of scenes when I would just sit there, I was just so excited while I was writing because it's just so bad, you know. He's just terrible. But yes, this is so good. but it's just, you know, Bud said one time, he said, you know, how bad can you be and not get fired? Well, that's kind of the way my characters sometimes are. You know, how bad can I make them without destroying the story? And everything I write has a touch of suspense in it, just because that's how my brain works. But my romantic suspense stories have more of the suspense element in them. And the detail was probably my most suspenseful romantic suspense to date. And there's suspense in Firestorm too, because there are some bad guys that are after something Jenna doesn't know she has, and there's a fire at her business which turned out to be an accident, but then her house is broken into, and then she's got all this, somebody's following her, and you know, things like that. And it's just that little bit of suspense, because that tension helps the romantic storyline, because Donovan is trying to help her and they get closer together. And
do you ever feel like you're spinning your wheels? Last I checked, and the reason I asked it is last I checked, romance books, novels make up 50% of all fiction sales. It's very lucrative for writers, but at the same time, there's lots and lots of competition.
And that I'm a very small fish in a ginormous pond, and I know that. And if I'm writing to get rich, I'm spinning my wheels for sure.
Yeah.
I write because I love what I do. I love the whole creative story making process of, oh, that would make a good story. Oh, I like that person. That person generated an idea for a story. So how can I make that work? But the romance genre it's just ridiculously lucrative in the fiction world. I saw a stat earlier this week that said globally, the romance genre generates revenue in excess of $31 billion.
Wow.
$31 billion. That's globally.
Wow.
In the US, it's like 1.4 or 5 billion, give or take a million, you know. It's just ridiculous how much it generates. But the thing is that romance readers are the most loyal, the most dedicated readers out there. They have a favorite author or a favorite genre or a favorite trope. They are all in. I went to an event last weekend that was all romance authors, and I was asking this one lady, why romance? Why do you read it? And she says, I like to be happy. And she said, romance makes me happy. And I said, well, good. I like that. These are all romance. How many do you want? She ended up buying 3 books, but she said she likes the happy ever after. She said, but I love a good story. She said, I don't want a book filled with a bunch of sex. Is that all this is? I said, no. I said, I believe that romance is about emotion, not sex. And she says, then that's what I want. And that's something that I've discovered along the way is that um, people want to know up front. This brings me to another thing. We're talking about tropes. You know, tropes to me are not a cliche.
Mm-hmm.
They're a promise to the reader.
Hmm.
And that's what I was talking to her about is that if I know that my trope is, um, grumpy millionaire meets Miss Sunshine. Well, if then,
Hold on. What she's referring to is the comment put up. Always good to have a villain people love to hate.
oh yeah, oh yeah, that but in your tropes, that they're a promise to the reader. They know when they pick that book up, if it says Grumpy Billionaire meets Miss Sunshine, they know exactly what to expect because each one of those tropes, and gosh, there are a ton of them out there, and they're getting more all the time. And that's why another reason why the romance market is so extensive anymore is because it has grown to suit the culture. You
Hmm.
know, our culture has changed. Our A lot of things have changed from when I first started reading romance back in, the 80s, 70s and the 80s. And they're totally different than what they were back then. The people want a story. They want a beginning, a middle and an end. And so
Hmm.
I
Uh,
forgot what the question was. I got off track, but
where do you get most of your ideas?
again, anything can spark an idea. Um, I was at a IHOP having breakfast, and this soldier came in, a guy in uniform, came in. And he sat over here at the table, and he just kind of, to me, he just kind of looked sad. And I had already made up my mind I was going to go over and speak to him because he just looked sad to me. Well, here comes a woman and a little boy, and he just perks up.
Hmm.
And he went over there. That was his family. He was waiting for his family.
Aw.
And so then they were all just happy, and I sat there, and that's where Chasing Hope came from.
Yeah.
It's about a soldier who um, doesn't feel like he is worthy because he grew up in foster care. He was abandoned as a child. He had a lot of emotional baggage, and then he finds the one person who can make him feel worthy again, and that's what it's about. You know,
So
Two
with
people who find out that despite all their differences, the obstacles that they face, the baggage that they carry, because we all have our own set of baggage. You are lovable, and it is possible for you to love, and so
right.
happily ever after.
Hmm.
So our
But
one question,
like I said, that's how I get it. And a lot of times, Unveiling Beulah came to me in a dream. I woke up. Had this dream. There was this woman standing on a train. What do you call those things? Platform. It was in the 1800s. She was waiting on a train. She had this veil on, and she was like, "You have to tell my story." And I woke up just like that, and I went, "Okay, who are you, and what's your story?" Well, you can't go back to sleep after something like that because
yeah.
writer brain kicks into gear and it says, "Oh, what if? What if? Oh, she's this. Oh, what about that?" And so that's how Unveiling Beulah was born. Came to me in a dream. Chasing Hope, I saw a young soldier in a restaurant. So
So a question we always ask authors, and I'm pretty sure you know the answer to this. Are you a planner, pantser, or a planner?
I am a pantser. I couldn't. Patty will tell you I cannot plot for nothing. If I put it on paper, even in a very minuscule fashion, then it has to happen. It said chapter one has to happen like this. Well, no, you can move it to chapter. No, it said chapter one. This has to happen. So no, I can't. And it's kind of a blessing and a curse because I've written myself into a corner more than once. And I even Mike, young tell you, how do I fix this? What am I doing wrong? And the fabulous Caleb Pirtle one time,
Yeah.
the very first book I wrote, Secrets of the Heart, I like to never finished because I wrote myself into a corner and I could not get out. I did not know what to do next. Well, I was talking to Caleb at a meeting, a writer's meeting, and he said, "You just need to get out of the way." And I said, "What?" And he said, you need to back up to where the story made sense. And everything after that, you need to take it out. And I'm like, I can't do that. Those words are too hard to come by. I'm not going to get rid of them. He says, no, you'll probably still use them, but in a different place in the story.
Yeah.
And then the ending to Secrets of the Heart is totally different than what I originally envisioned, because once I got out of the way and listened to the story and saw which direction it went, it had a totally different ending.
Wow. Yeah. I read Chasing Hope,
Mm-hmm.
and I really liked it. And you you write good stories, and you said they're character driven, and obviously that's, if anyone's read any of your books, that comes to the fore right from the jump. I did want to give real quick you and Patty some props for me personally. I've told CJ this as well. Other people that know me, I've said the same thing. The only reason I'm on the podcast now, the only reason I've written any books, period, is because a number of years ago, I saw you and Patty at I think it was Deck the Halls in Mount Pleasant. Y'all had a booth there and stopped and chatted, and y'all asked, "Hey, what are you writing?" I said, "Well, I'm not writing anymore." And why not? Well, because I'd gone to a critique, and you know all about that. I've said that. And it was pretty brutal, and they didn't take any prisoners. I'm not what I consider somebody that doesn't take challenges serious, or that I have I get my feelings hurt easily or something like that. But I left that critique not thinking that I was any good at this writing, so why waste any more time doing it? And so I met you and Patty, or saw you and Patty at the Deck the Halls, and y'all give me encouragement to, hey, it's not the end of the world, these people don't know everything, et cetera, et cetera. But I left that feeling really good, and well, maybe I'll try and give it another shot. And of course, as I say, the rest is history. Now, am I a best-selling author? No, not yet. But I've enjoyed the journey, and it's something that I would have missed had you and Patty not, given those kind words of support. And I think I've always remembered that. And CJ always asks the question at the end of the podcast, what's the best advice you could give someone? And I think about that a lot. And although we ask the same question, so it kind of seems rote, it really is important, because encouragement from other authors is, so you just never know how important it is to somebody that's struggling to write a book.
That's right.
And I thank you and Patty.
You're very welcome. You're a very gifted, talented writer, and I've enjoyed your work. I was at a thing in Greenville, but I guess was it last year, or the year before last, and a lady came up to me with her 12-year-old son who wanted to write. And she said, he never finishes anything. He just puts stuff down, and then he'll go on and put something else. And she said, how do I get him to finish? I said, you encourage him. He's not wasting time. He's practicing. I said, when the story he needs to tell comes to him, he will know it and he will write it. And I told the little boy, because he was standing there, and I said, don't ever stop what you're doing. I said, what you are doing now is preparing the way for when you hit the story that you want to tell. And his mother says, I never thought about it that way. And she was so appreciative. And I gave her my card, and I said, my email is on there. Anytime you have a question, feel free to ask, and I'll answer. And so I hope he kept writing. She said he was very talented. I didn't see what he was writing, but the fact that she even brought him there to talk to some authors, and I don't write children's books, but it was just the writing process itself. I said, don't discourage that. Encourage it. Let him do what he needs to do, because he's practicing for the real thing.
There you go. So what advice would you give somebody who wants to write in the romance genre?
Well, you need to know what your genre is. Every genre has its own set of you must haves and you should haves and you need. Romance is no different. Romance is very, very specific about some things. You have to have, you have to have the emotional happily ever after. You have to have, the conflict and resolution and all this. But know for sure what your genre is and what the requirements are. And then do some reading, do some research, find out more. If there's an author that you really like and you want to aspire to write in that same vein, then read some more of their work. How did they get where they are? It's the main thing is if you want to write, write. Don't let somebody else tell you that you can't. That's the thing that I guess really sticks in my craw sometimes is authors not supporting authors because we've all been to the spot where Mike was in where why do I even bother? What is it even worth it? And all it takes is one word of encouragement from somebody else. Well, maybe yeah, I'll try it again. But encourage, don't discourage.
Oh, yeah.
And when you get started, go with your heart.
Yeah, my theory is always give constructive criticism, not destructive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it doesn't, all it takes is one kind word. It doesn't hurt to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
You may not have liked the story, but there's something that you liked about it that you could be positive about.
Do the sandwich where it's, compliment sandwich.
Oh, I haven't heard that part, but
Where you compliment, complaint, compliment. You
oh,
okay.
give a compliment and then but you need to do this better,
Mhm.
then you compliment.
Always end with a compliment. I agree. This could have used a little work, but I
This
really enjoyed this.
work on this. This was really good.
Mhm.
So
Always end on a positive.
Mhm.
Yep.
Definitely.
Not what are you doing writing?
The compliment sandwich.
I'll have to remember that compliment sandwich.
Compliment sandwich is what they call it.
Yeah.
Dan, thank you so much for joining us today. You've been great as always. Remember, love is in the air. Valentine's Day is on Saturday. For those who forget, you've got a couple more days. Hint, hint.
Thanks for the reminder. I need
For those who have forgotten,
to
is Saturday. Here's your hints. Yeah, for those who forgot, Valentine's Day, Saturday. You heard it here. Next week, we are talking reels. What are they good for? What can you use them for? How are they useful in your tools? Speaking of tools, we talked about AI tools a couple weeks ago. Make sure to catch that video in case you missed it. It is on our YouTube. Check it out. Like I said, next week we have reels. Don't miss it. It'll be here, 4 o'clock, same time, same station. You can find Dana Wayne all around social media. Find out what she's got going on danawayne.com. That's www.danawayne.com. Check us out next week, same time, same inbox, 4 o'clock. Catch you guys next week.
Bye.